is real. All our history's hazy, like driving in the pouring rain. Are we in too deep to heal? You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Before we're leaving here.
I know it ain't easy, but there's something left to hold on to. We can work it through, you don't have to go. There's a future here with me. We'll find the light in a clouded room. Not giving up until you know.
You tell me that you're sorry, we'll make up tomorrow. Tell me everything you know I wanna hear. I'm trying to be open, but that window is closing. And either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here. Either way, I need to make it clear before we're leaving here.
Yeah, shalom, everyone. Shalom. I want to welcome everyone to the house of the Lost Sheep of Israel. I'm Elder Michael Johnson, and today we're going to be going through a pretty interesting teaching and getting a better understanding on clean and unclean. So I want to make sure that each and every one of us have our paper and pencil ready to where we can go through this and understand quite a bit on what thus said the Lord and basically what he really wants us to understand. So before I get started, I do want to make one thing perfectly, one announcement I do want to go through, is that later this afternoon I will be doing another announcement at the end with the sealed portion, this book, the sealed portion, the final testament of this Jesus Christ, what they doing on this book. And the main thing is, what we want to understand is a lot of people teach from this book, and we're going to go through that. And the main thing is, what we're going to do, we're going to dissect some pieces of this to show you the craziness and the how people didn't get caught up into Kabbalah and the Zohar, and why they can get caught up so easily. You're going to see that here in this teaching. So if you know somebody who's in it, or if you have even purchased the book and you find some things interesting in it, I ask you to come over at 3 o'clock Pacific time and 5 o'clock Central and 6 o'clock Eastern time. Come over and see, because there's some things in there that actually going to shock you half to death. We did the 2 longest pieces this week, where there was like 20 minutes and a 19-minute. I had to do that to get rid of all the long pieces, because the longest video you'll see in the other presentation that I'll be doing this afternoon, the longest one you'll see is probably 6 minutes. But then we're gonna mainly be teaching on it. But that's the longest one you see. It's about 6 minutes, but literally it's gonna be highly interesting, and you're gonna be shocked on that also. So the main thing is we want to make sure that everybody understand on what we're going through, and we're doing the sealed portion, exposed, the final testament, and why it's so important. It's so important. If you get caught up into something, you can get caught up into anything by leaving what the truth says. However, we're going to go back and we want to look at this, and I also want to make one other announcement before we do. Because now on Sundays, if you get a chance, make sure you go over to OKC, King James Bible University, which is ran by Deacon Micah. He will be running over there on Sunday mornings. So on Sunday mornings, I'm going to actually be putting his video link to go directly there for Sundays to get people used to what's going on. Because we want you to go there, because he's going to be running most times in the morning, or Deacon Smith was going to be doing it. But mainly, he's taking over Sundays. So you'll see him over there. And main thing is, he'll be running in the morning. I believe he's going to be running at 8 o'clock, the same time that I was running. And then he always ran at 3 o'clock. And then he's going to have another one going at 3 o'clock, which it might be him or might be Deacon Smith. I'm not sure how they're going to work that out, but they already excited about taking that over. So make sure we go over there and support them brothers. And because I'm going to tell you, Deacon Micah, he goes through things, and a real good thing about it is a lot of times he like to put those preceptors up, or he put that written communication tool up, and he show you exactly where this stuff is coming from and showing you how you need to go through this study. So I ask that you go over there to OKC, King James Bible University, and check out that brother. That brother, he's all right. He's a younger brother, but he's extremely sharp, and actually even with Deacon Smith as well. But the main thing we want to look at is this here. We going through this one here. And we want to understand something with Leviticus chapter 11. Because Leviticus chapter 11 covers which animals. I want you to really pay close attention to what's going to go on here. Really, what animals are clean and unclean. And then same thing with the children of Israel. Because it's telling them what they are permitted to eat and what they can't eat. But if you know spiritually what it's saying, it's telling you what you can learn from and what you cannot learn from. What is clean and what is unclean. And we have to understand this, but the better way to understand this thing, we see the things that you're permitted to eat upon the ground, the things you can eat in the air, the things you can eat even in the waters. So the Bible make all these allusions to clean and unclean animals, which we need to really pay attention to and find out what it is. And we have numerous people out there, readers and teachers alike. Many people is out there, and they do these things, and they thinking that they having a real hard time comprehending the subject itself. We're going to find out why. Because these divisions are justified, and it's based on holy and impure, in godly and ungodly, because men and animals are not equal. Neither been equal at any time. So one set of individuals was created of the world. But then we have with clean and unclean beasts, fowls, and things of the sort. So we have to understand what that is. And we have to remember one group was created in the appearance of God. So they was created in the image of God, which is the appearance, the stature, and the similitude of God, being separated from everything. And we have to remember that. And he was also in his likeness. So it's a pattern in this similitude on what we need to see. Actually, we're going to tell you what, before we even get really cranked into it, I want to go over to it. We want to go over to it. Excuse me. So we're going to look at Hebrews. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 8 and pick it up at verse 5. I want to show you something, what we're talking about, and get a better understanding on how to really pay attention and see what happened when we look at things in a spiritual way. Because when we're looking at Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 5, it says, who served unto the example of the shadow of heavenly things, comparing Moses was admonished. I want you to understand what's going on here. Moses was admonished because he wanted Moses to create something that was a similitude to where they could see what was going on. And all it was a tabernacle. Watch what you're going to see here. It says Moses was admonished when he was about to make the tabernacle, for see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. So we got to remember what he's talking about. And he was admonished because the Most High God told him a certain way we need you to do it. And he wasn't doing it. He got admonished for that. Because it had to be in the pattern on how he told it. So it has to be in the similitude, the likeness on what he wanted. So God's saying, okay, I want you to do this, but I'm going to tell you how to do it. Don't you take it upon yourself and do it yourself. I'm telling you how I want this done. This is why we have so many numerous readers having difficulty when they read Leviticus chapter 11. This is the reason why. Because we got to remember where everything lies. Everything lies within the parable or the construct of the text. And overall, where we comprehend in this subject is based on the knowledge of language and tongue of God. That's your key. It's the key. It's the knowledge of the language and tongue. So as we know with this, in the unity and agreement in the custom, the truth, the traditions, which if God did not speak in his language or in his tongue, the similitudes and examples given then is animals. Think about that. Think about that. Just animals. And you see animals on how they just moving around. Animals, just animals. But if it's just animals, then animals will just be animals. Or we're going to look at where people will just be people. This is what we have to remember. We don't want just people just being people. This is the key. That's the key. So this is what we got to pay attention to, because then we have one direction where people will look at similitudes and not really understand them, because they think animals is animals in the Bible and not the similitude. And then they just figure people is people. So one would have the directions on what they read and do not eat. So since they can't translate that, they can't translate when they're saying don't eat this or don't eat that. They just believe what they see and not looking at the similitudes from the language and the tongue of God. And God only speaks in parables. So we need to understand behind it and what's going on behind the parable. We need to look behind the curtain to understand what he was saying. So let's make sure we have our Bibles with us, make sure we have our paper, make sure we have our pencils, because we want to go through and we want to understand this clearly, because we're going to unveil a lot of things to help you really understand what's going on in Leviticus chapter 11. This we're going to do together to where we're going to get the understanding. And let's go over here to Matthew. We're going to look at Matthew chapter 15, and we're going to look at verse 16. And we got to go there first. The reason why, because he spoke a parable. He declared a parable. And he stated this. How should I say? He says, are ye also yet without understanding? So are we without understanding? This is a good point. Are we without understanding the scriptures then based on subjects that he speaks of? Because he was talking about something, even talking about what was eating. It was even talking about eating. But watch what's going on here. We want to understand this. As we move down, it says, do ye yet understand whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goeth into the belly, including is cast out into the draught? Or in our day and time, we talking about a toilet. Did you ever think about that? Whatever goes in, it's only going in, and it's going to go into your belly, and it's going to do what it do. It's going to separate, all these pieces, and you're going to take all these minerals and vitamins out of this piece of meat, or take it out this vegetable, and then it's going to take all the waste and it's going to cast it out right into the draught. And as we go through here, we're going to get a better understanding as we go more. It says, but those things which proceed out of the mouth. So now it's not coming into the mouth and then coming back up, but the things that's coming out of the mouth come forth from the heart, including they defile the man. We got to pay attention to that, because vice versa is where now this came from. Now it's coming from within the heart. And now this is going to come out into the world. And what's coming out of there is what defiles the man. That's what's defiling the man. We want to get all the understanding. We want to make sure that we get in the foundation here before we move forward and go into Leviticus 11. I want to make sure we can understand the similitudes on what he's talking about. In seeing this, he produced from the heart and these things which defile man, because it was created by flesh. That thought of that man, that thing that he was thinking of, it came out, his desires of the flesh, which was created by man, and it was by the will of man and not by the desires of God. This is what was going on. So that since it was created by that, and he wanted to show you this is what we're looking at. In the same thing we'll see here, we'll look at Mark chapter 7, verse 7. And see this here. We're going to see part of this here. And it says, howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching the doctrines and commandments of men. This is coming from their hearts and not the commandments of God. So in vain do they do it, because men create these things. They create these illusions. They create these things in how you're to worship him. And it's based on doctrines and commandments of men. And is making anyone, I don't care who they are, it make anyone nothing more than a Pharisee or a scribe in today's time. False teachers. And that's all it makes them, because they will continue in the traditions of men and men of the past, where they were sitting there finding ways to get you to do what you wanted them to, what they wanted you to do. And what they do on that, they get you to come into these places, these buildings, based on traditions. These gathering places based on tradition. And we know this even more so because we got to pay attention to what he's talking about. And to show you even more so, I want to show you something to where we can look at this even a little bit more. Actually, because I'm going to use that one. But I want to show you something here. And just remember, because they holding on to these traditions will keep you caught up. They'll keep you caught up. And based on those traditions is what we find out, and not good for us at all. And we're going to pick this up at at Hebrews chapter 9, but we want to look at verse 24. Verse 24. And it's telling us a piece of text here in Scripture. It says, "For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands," meaning is not entered into, talking about going into buildings, not going into any place that they sit there and they say God is there. That's what it's telling you. It says he's not entered into places made with hands, which are figures of the truth, but unto heavenly itself now to appear in the presence of God for us. And you can see even Moses got admonished when he tried to do something his way. It's telling you right there when we're looking back over here at Hebrews chapter 8 over here. He was admonished because when he was making the tabernacle, he wanted to change some things a little bit, but God said, no, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. You're going to do it the identical way that I told you and I instructed you to. Because now people end up doing it in vain. Vain do they worship, in vain do they do things. So what they will do, they'll start soliciting people. And the way they get these things, they'll solicit people and members. They'll go on street corners. They'll do ads through television. They'll do all these different things. They'll go door to door. Door to door. Not taking, to the doctrine, but they doing it differently. In fact, we'll look at this and just go through this and really pay more attention to it. In Luke chapter 9, and we'll find this in verse 4. And he's telling us exactly what to do. And we're going to see, we're not going into a building, but watch what's happening here. It says, "In whosoever house ye enter into, there abide and thence depart." There abide and thence depart. It's not telling you to say, okay, hey, come to this building, come here, come there. It's saying you're going to sit there and you're going to go there, you're going to talk to some people, what's going on. But he says, take nothing for your journey, no staff, no script, neither bread, neither money, neither 2 coats apiece. Think about that. And they was teaching and preaching the doctrine of the kingdom of God. In fact, in Mark chapter 13, where I wanted to go, but it's already here, so I just keep it there. And watch this. I just want you to see what happens, because when people start doing, they get you to try to come somewhere. It says in Mark chapter 13, picking up at verse 21, it says, "Including then, if any man shall say to you, lo, here is Christ, or lo, he is there, believe him not." That's interesting, isn't it? That should be highly interesting, because we sit there and we go to these buildings because they're going to tell you that this a holy place to come to. "If any man shall say to you, lo, here is Christ, or lo, he is there, believe him not." Believe him not. Because he's not entering the holy places or any of these buildings made with hands. But you have men teaching against people and doing certain things. But you even have some men out there that's teaching, and they'll sit there and they talk about how much they don't like people teaching people in Zoom. You have a lot of people do it. We do it sometimes. We go back there and we do questions and answers and all kinds of stuff back there. But you have people out there, in wrong or right, they in Zoom. But then you have certain men out there teaching people against that, saying that they shouldn't be doing that. It's not scriptural. It's not scriptural teaching people in the building. But the thing we have to remember is the same people who telling you that, they use Zoom to teach also. They actually even advertise Zoom. They even advertise it saying, "Hey, you want to join our Zoom meet?" They give you all the information, but they'll teach against it. But we have to remember the reason behind it, and the driver behind it is money. You can't charge people. You can't get money from people. Well, I'm pretty sure you can because they can do it other ways, but you can't really get money from people where you need them to pay a tithe or pay a love offering or something through Zoom. It's hard. Or have them, hey, send in your thing here, and you tell them to do it through Zoom. So they need you there. They need you right there. And they do that for those reasons. But the more so, let's look at verse 19, Matthew 15:19. And you see right here, it says, "For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, and murders, and adulteries, fornications, thieves, false witness, blasphemies." These things happen. These things happen. Perceive out of the heart. Well, they're telling you where Christ is, and he's not there. He's not there. But we will continue and look at these things, and we continue to hold on to people who do certain things. And it's telling us right up front on what's going on. It says, "These are the things which defile a man, but to eat, to learn with unwashing hands defileth not the man." Defileth not the man. We have to understand this, because this is going to get real serious in 1 minute real quick. It is really important we understand these basics. See, the truth is everything. It don't defile the man. So learning the truth at home, at your own home, is why he says, "In whosoever house ye enter into," you abide there. You tell them, just like we doing right now. You're not shoveling out no money, but you can weigh the matter right where you are. Right where you are. You're not going into a building and your hands can be unwashing or not. Interesting. So the same with chapter 11 of Leviticus. See, it comes down to desire. That's your point. And you want to put that down. The focus in Leviticus chapter 11, I want you to put that on the side of your paper. Desire. That's what you want to focus. Desire. In which comes out of the heart from men. And you can consume it. And those desires are of the flesh and created by flesh. They are created 100% by flesh. So since they created by flesh, then guess what? That's a fleshly desire, and it's not a God. In Mark chapter 7, and we're going to sit there and we're going to look at a part of this and see how this actually started working out and how it plays out. It says, "Then came together unto him," they came to Yahushua, and it was Pharisees. These people calling themselves the doctors of the law. That's what I want you to remember. In the certain scribes, you see who's with them, who's clicking with them. And it says, "Which came from Jerusalem." And watch what happens. Goes right back to it. Because they got a problem with this. And when they saw that some of his disciples, some of Yahushua's disciples, eat bread with defile. How they was defile. It goes so much into this, which we're going to go into. It says, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they find fault. They find fault. And I'm going to tell you, even when we was younger, my brother would tell you, we used to go hunting with our dad. And we went with our cousin. Our cousin name was Wooly. That was his nephew. And he was in the service. He was in Vietnam, but he was a whole different type. He was a different type of cat. And we used to go rabbit hunting, literally up in Palmdale. Now it's full of houses, but we used to go up hunting up there. And one time we shot a bunch of rabbits and this and that, and our mom would make us, sandwiches and different things. So we sit there. Now we done caught rabbits, we done shot them rabbits and cleaned them, gutted them and everything, blood on our hands, and stuff was all on our hands. And me and my brother, and I believe Will was doing the same thing. We wanted to get somewhere where we can wash our hands, to where we can eat. But old Wooly, I'm telling you, boy, I don't even think I ate after I seen. He had all that on his hands, and he got him a sandwich, and he ate like it was nothing. And we looked and we told him about it. He said, "Hey, what you gonna do? Just starve?" And I'm talking about, he said a couple of things, like, "Hey, y'all crazy, y'all. Hey, you hungry, you eat." I couldn't believe it. And I'm talking, he holding the bread with his hands with that stuff. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And the main thing is, I'm not saying they was in this position, but the main point of it is, who you gonna find fault with? See, it was based on tradition. This is what they having a problem with. They find fault based on their tradition, and they just see this happening. So the same with men preaching on the street corners. Yeah, men's preaching on street corners, and they be in places. And what they do, they use statements in the Bible and how they get you. They use the statements in the Bible. And the first thing they'll say, where are your fringes? Where are your fringes? And then as they continually talk to you, then they try to get you to come to a building where Christ isn't there. It's interesting, isn't it? And it even get more interesting where they'll sit there, even on corners, they'll tell women. And you got churches hold to this. I'm talking about not just these on the corners, but you got churches hold to. They'll tell women cannot wear pants. Oh, women, you can't wear pants. You come here, you can't wear pants. Period. Which the Bible says that nowhere. And then they use breeches. They say, see these breeches? See, breeches right here, this mean pants. Tell them to prove it to you. Tell them to prove it to you. Because the main thing, breeches don't mean pants, one. And two, everyone, the men and the women wore talits. One was longer, one was shorter. And I'm not going to say it just for the sake of, if some camps are here, please challenge that. Challenge that. And tell them even more so, if they have breaches in the artifacts of even over there in Jerusalem and Egypt and all places, you should see something like that, of a carving of a man, even with shorter talits on. You should see something like pants there, but you don't see it because they don't know what breeches mean. So this is why we have a problem. But what men has did, they have created traditions, figuring they have an advance based on their policies, based on their commandments of men, which takes us right back to the language and the tongue of God when he was speaking to us. Threw everything out the window. So I just want to make sure we're getting all this together. All this we want to make sure we have together. And to make sure we have it all together, we're going to start marching down. We're going to start getting a little bit closer to what we need to do. I want to show you something also in Psalms, because Psalms, I don't know why most people they seen this, but for some reason we don't want to pay attention to it. In this scripture right here, it's in Psalms 49 and verse 4. It says this. He says, I will incline my ear to a parable. we will incline. We're gonna lean our ear. We're gonna hearken. We're gonna listen to these parables of God. It's right there in front of us. It says, I will open my dark sands, and now he speaks, I will open my dark sands upon the harp. And these harps is nothing but an elder. That's all they're saying. Not on the instrument. People is his instrument. And as he's telling us this is where we get screwed up. We'll sit there, you're going to put it up on a harp. Oh, David played the harp. No. It's talking about an elder. And you see even more so, excuse me, you see even more so when we look at this in Psalms 78. And this is why it's so important in understanding what's coming from the Most High. In 78 verse 2, I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. The language is what he's going to do according to the agreement of the tongues of the ways and the truth and the customs of old. Is what he's talking about. We're going to start finding all this out. We're going to keep moving back. We're going to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this until we can get all the way completely in the deep. In these things of old, we want to look at this, and we got to keep marching, keep going back, keep going back. We're going to look at this in Exodus, and we're going to look at chapter 18, and we want to look at verse 20. These things is old. These are old. The Old Testament is old. It says, including thou shalt teach them ordinances upon the harp, upon these elders, he's putting it on, in the laws, and shall show them the way therein they must walk, including the work they must do. I'm going to open up these dark sands of old. I'm going to speak to them. And you guys are going to be the ones doing it. And this is what they must do. And things must be done. It's right here. So we getting this, and we want to understand it all together. And most people do, but some people don't. Some people really want to understand what God is saying. Some people really don't. As we see in Isaiah chapter 48, and we're going to look at verse 17. And he's telling you this and what he does. Thus saith the Spirit of God, thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, I am the Spirit of thy God, which teaches thee to profit, which leadeth thee by the way that thou shouldst go. You see how has blended all these. You see some stuff that's written over here by Korah. You got one that's over here as Asaph. You have some written by Moses. And now we have one written by Isaiah. Bridged all the way through. And it's incline our ear to this parable, and we're going to open our ear to these dark sayings upon the elder, and he's going to open his mouth in a parable. He's going to utter these dark sayings, and in these sayings from these elders is going to teach you the ordinances, the laws, that show you the way that thou must walk and the work you must do. Because he's the Redeemer. And he's taught them. He taught these elders to profit you. So it's not complex. And he's making sure we get this. On top of that, you want to make sure in Ezekiel chapter 17, and we're going to look at this in verse 2. So he's telling us right up front, and this is full thought statement. It says, Son of man, put forth a riddle, including speak a parable unto the house of Israel. we getting where we need to go. And this is why I say it's so important. When you have people, they just teach you literal on the book. You're looking on top of the book. And if you just want, people say, well, I need to see stuff. Just look at your book. Open it up and you look at it and you just see the words on it. But then when you look behind the page of it, you just see another page. But up under those words is a function and a meaning of those. It's a function and a meaning of those that's there. And this is what we have to understand. And once we don't understand that, we have a problem. Parables and riddles in the mouth of the unlearned, having no idea of similitudes and functions and the mythologies which we need to be focused on, which is the parable. And that in an unlearned person is being like in the mouth of a fool. Excuse me. And this is why it's so, again, important. It is so important. And we got to understand the parable. That's your key. Parable. Don't stop sitting there. Well, we just need to understand the main part. No, we need to understand the parables. And if people don't understand dark sayings, then you're wasting your time. It says the legs of the lame are not equal. He's comparing you. And watch what he says. So the parable in the mouth of fools, he's comparing that. They're not equal. They're not equal. Proverbs 26 verse 7 tells us this. People never giving you the spiritual understanding of anything. And some people even complain about how you run across and, well, they go here and they go there, they go here, they go there, they go here. But he says, I'm going to speak to you according to my precepts upon lying, here a little, there a little. And that way God speaks. But we're going to see all this. And we're going to sit there and we're going to look at John chapter 4. And picking it up at verse 24, because we want to understand the parable. We want to understand what he's getting into, what he's trying to set us up for, to where we can completely understand. And we get this and we know this. It says God is a spirit. And if a spirit trying to talk to a person, we can't understand the spiritual things because we ain't walking around spirits. We got spirits in us. But God is a spirit. So for us to understand his world, he has to give us similitudes so we can understand it. So it's telling us right here, it says God is a spirit, including they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So we have to understand the similitudes that he's given us. We have to understand the riddles and the dark sayings that he's given us. This is why people give you fleshly understandings based on the book. It's real simple, real straightforward. And we want to understand the what he's speaking of, but we got to understand the similitudes, the function in the mythologies. And most people don't want to learn those. So men today, they use these special words. They like to use these special words. They like to use like exegesis and hermeneutics. Interesting, isn't it? In fact, I'm going to put these up there because I want to make sure if you ever run across it, you know it. So I'm going to put this up there and then we're going to come back to what we're doing. I want to put these up there. And I want to show you something, what men base things on. They do exegesis. Exegesis. And I'm gonna write it in this explanation. Actually, I'm gonna show you what it actually does. Or of a text. This is what exegesis is. Exegesis is this. That's what exegesis is. It's the explanation or critical interpretation of text. Human. human. And you have this one. We're going to look at the other one. Actually, let me sit there. We're going to look at the other one. Hermeneutics. I think I got that spelled right. I think I spelled it right. Yeah, I guess I did. Spelled it right. Okay. Okay. Hermeneutics. They use these two. These are the two that they will use. And hermeneutics is the method or theory, principle of interpretation. Interpreting what? What you going to interpret? That's the key. They're using that to interpret. And the reason why we have a problem with that, the reason I have a big problem with that is this. And I'm going to show you the problem that I have. And each and every one of us should have that problem because that's what they use. They use hermeneutics and they use exegesis. And this is my problem. Because we go right to Isaiah 28 and we're going to look at verse 10. Verse 10, it tells us. You don't see hermeneutics here, do you? It says, for precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, in there a little. This is keeping this method diligently. This is what we have to do. We have to keep this diligently. That's the point. That's the focus. To keep that diligently. And we choose not to. Many of us choose not to. The reason we choose not to because we want to create our own things. We want to act like we're working for someone else. But if we keep this method diligently, then when the scriptures or you have a question or you have a subject that you're trying to understand, you will get the same identical response from God and not from man when you're using precepts, when you're using it line upon line, when you're using it here a little, there a little. You're letting God speak and not man. And so it's no way where you can put man in there. See, it's just like saying, for example, I can't sit here and speak and tell you or teach you anything about God. And then every now and then I keep telling you, okay, everybody's out there bad but me. See, you see, I keep injecting me in there. But I'm a man. But I keep injecting me in there. And when God speaks, I can promise you I wasn't in his mind. He knew me, but I wasn't, but he didn't base any text based on me personally, per se. That's the point I'm making. When he talks, he want to make sure we understand him, and he's going to talk to us. So when we have that question, he's going to talk to us. So his servants, as we supposed to be servants, we supposed to be the mouth of God. I'm just telling you about who I do, what I'm doing. All I ain't supposed to be just the mouth of God, period. Nothing more, nothing else. Not sit there to boast for me or any one of us. But keeping this precept so when he speaks, we know it's coming from him. In fact, when you see this, I'm going to show you, when you see this here, I'll show you something even more so. Because he's one of the easiest persons really to work with, especially if you do it according to the way he already tells you. And we'll see this all through Scripture. All through Scripture. And this is why he tells us this. he tells us this in Psalms 89 and verse 38. He says, my covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that has gone out of my lips. So all I have to do is study God. That's it. And so I'm just telling you what he's saying. Just telling you what he's saying. Think about this.
Every big lawyer in New York, who the hell are you?
I have a special practice. I handle one client.
That's my only client. I got one client. One. It's Christ. And my only thing to do is not to try to speak and give you my stuff and make you be subservient to me, or speaking in exegesis or hermeneutics, which is crazy. Those are things of the flesh. And they're only going to give you with the interpretation of what man wants you to think. Interpretation of flesh. What you can and cannot eat. Not knowing the functions on which is lying within Scripture, which is the similitude he's been trying to show us the entire time. So, we want to put forth. We want to put this forth. We're going to put Leviticus forth. And hopefully everybody got their papers and pencils ready, because this is a serious piece of text we got to go through. Serious piece of text we have to go through. And we're going to pick this up at Leviticus. We're going to look at Leviticus chapter 11. We're going to start right there at verse 1 and understand it. And it tells us this. It says, "In the Spirit of God spake unto Moses, including to Aaron, saying unto them," watch what goes on here, because we're going to get into some things that's really crazy. But we're going to find out what's happening here. It says, "Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth." This is clear. But did we understand it physically? Interpretation based on hermeneutics and exegesis? Or do we understand it based on the parables and the similitudes that God wanted us to see? That's your key. And what I want you to make sure of, because when they talk about all the beasts, it says these are the beasts. And if you have a Paleo Hebrew keyword dictionary, most people already would have caught this, because it's saying these are the men, because that's all it's telling you, which ye shall learn among all the men that are on the earth. That's what it's actually said. That's what it's actually saying. But the main thing is, people going to sit there and they telling you about animals. Are you with me? I want to make sure that, let me see, I know they're going to put that in there. I'm just seeing if they're going to put that in there, because if not, I'm going to put it in there to where we can have it. Just knowing what's going on. So just sitting there, we're going to sit there and we're going to look. We want to put, they're putting it in there, so I'm not going to even put it in there. But we want to learn from the beasts. And these the beasts we can do things with. And let's start understanding this real clear. Real clear. We're going to find out some things. Now it says, "Whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven-footed and cheweth the cud among the men, that ye shall learn." Boom. We need to hit a few things, because he said a few things that we need to really know what they meant. Because it's talking about that it's parted the hoof and cloven-footed and cheweth the cud. So we need to understand this so we can move down properly. Everybody should agree with this. Everybody shouldn't have no problem with this. So the main thing, what I want to do, again, and we're going to go over here, we're going to look in this, and we're going to see what's happening here. And we're going to find out what it's talking about. So we want to know what the hoof is. We want to know what certain things are. So we're going to take out this, and we're going to put hoof. And we want to know what hoof mean. Now I know they're going to put that in there for you, but this just, just putting this in there. But I know they're going to put it in there for you for reference. But hoof means when I try to look and type, you guys, please just excuse me on that, because if I'm looking at typing, I'm gonna type it wrong. So the hoof is clean and unclean. So now we know what he's talking about. So it's telling you that what is clean and unclean. Now we know what this is saying. Now we know what this is saying. But he says some more. He says, including his cloven footed. So we need to know what that is. We need to know what that is. We're just going to use it this way for temporarily. We're just going to use it that way temporarily. So this is divided desires. So he can separate these things. So he's clean and unclean in can, actually I'll put this right here. Can divide desires. And we know what these desires can be. We're going to put this here. We're going to put that there. We want to put that there just to have that there. They can separate that. Now, we understand this a little bit more. But these are the ones we can do. And then it's talking about and they chew the cud. Remember he said that. Because we're going to go back and look at it when we come back. Let me see. Chew. Told you I shouldn't. So we know this here. Okay. Shoes. I don't know why I put an ED at the end. I don't know why I did that. But anyway, this is it. So chew cud, or chew, we'll just say chew it the cud. Do it that way, simpler. And chew it the cud, it can consider infinite visions and matters. And basically, that's what it's doing. So now let's go back to the scriptures. Let's go back to the scriptures. And now we should have this understanding. We should have this understanding pretty good now. Because this is what it's saying the entire time. And this was our problem. So now let's look back at that verse. Let's look back at the verse. It says, whatsoever parteth the hoof, that is clean and unclean. Whosoever parteth the hoof, clean and unclean. It says, and is cloven footed, who can divide the desires from men and from God, and cheweth the cud, consider the infinite visions and dreams and matters. That's what it's saying. Among these men, thou shalt learn. It's clear as day. In fact, I'm going to show you something. I want to show you something. Let's look at something. We're going to look at one. Actually, it was kind of funny, but we're going to look at this and how people actually messed this up. And we're going to tell you what first. Let me go to, I want to go to first Maccabee. I want to go to Maccabees first. I want to go there first. I want to show you something there. We're going to look at 2 and 23. 2 and 23. I want to show you something happen here. So 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 23. I I wanted to show you something because we did use one. The reason why I want to do it because I know I forget it. But I want to show you about these infinite visions. That's what I want to focus on with this one. And it says, all these things I say being declared by Jason the Cyrene in 5 books, the first 5, in essay to abridge in 1 volume. And this is why I wanted you to see that. So we won't get, for considering the infinite number of difficulty which they find that desire to look into narrations of the story for the variety of the matter, and watch what happens. We have been careful that they will read, may have delight in that they that are desirous to commit to memory might have ease, that all into whose hand it comes might have profit. Talking about the book right there, clear, beautifully written piece of text. But I want to show you now why we have to do this in divided at a hoof and everything. I want to show you that. And we want to look over here in Acts chapter 10, but we want to pick it up at verse 17 because this is something that happened to Peter. And you're going to see what Peter had to do. It says, while Peter doubted in himself what the vision he had seen should mean, meaning what? He had to consider, he had to chew on that cud. He had to chew the cud. He had to consider, he had to think on this. He was chewing the cud. It's Peter. And he said he had to think on what this vision he had seen should mean. Remember, the men which were from Cornelius had made an inquiry of Simon's house and stood before the gate. That's him. Now let's see, how long did he chew on the cud? Let's drop down to verse 28. Let's go down to verse 28 and let's see what happened with Peter. We're going to see the outcome with Peter. And it says, and he said unto them. So Peter's talking, and Peter getting ready to tell you. He said, you know that it is an unlawful thing that a man that is a follower of Christ keep company. You see how Peter's running this. You see what Peter's running now. He said, you keep company. And he's telling you right up front. But he's telling you being what? Because he's talking about what you see here. It's an unlawful thing that a man that is a follower of Christ keep company or come into another nation. Forethought, meaning this. Actually, I'm going to show you to you. I'm going to show you what he did. Because we already know he had to chew the cud. But he's telling you right now, he was cloven-footed. He was cloven-footed. He had to divide those desires from men and God. Because God don't tell you that. But those are traditions of men. So he had to be able to be cloven-footed. Because he's telling you right up front. He said, you know, that is a man that is a follower of Christ to keep company with another nation. That's a forethought. But watch what he says. Watch how he fulfills each priest. He says, but God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Hoof. He ran it backwards. Well, Peter was sometimes backwards, but he got it backwards, but you see how he ran it. And he fulfilled everything right there clearly. Clearly, he felt it. So Peter, you see, he had to chew on the cud in 17. He had to chew that cud because he didn't know what it meant. Let's go back and see some of this. Let's go back and see some of this. And we'll see this back up in here. And we're just going to run through it, not going to go through a lot of stuff, but we're just going to run through it. And you'll see what happened. And you'll see what goes on here. It says, and Peter fell into a trance. But he fell into a trance. In verse 11, it says, and saw heaven open, and certain vessels descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet. It wasn't a great sheet as it had been. It's just a comparison. A great sheet on 4 corners led down to the earth, wherein all manner. See, people say it was all unclean beasts. No, it says all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts and creeping things and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter responded to that voice. He says, not so, Lord. Lord, I ain't doing it. Think about that. I want you to think about it. Not so, no, Lord, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that. He says, I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean, including the voice spake unto him again, a second time. But watch what he gonna say. He said, and God have cleansed, what God have cleansed, call not thou common. Don't you call it common. But Peter had to chew on that cud. He had to sit there, so that's where he gets down to verse 17. While Peter doubted himself what the vision he had seen should mean, Peter had to chew that cud. He had to think on this thing. He had to really think on this thing here. But then Peter, was he being clothed? He had to desire. He had to set his personal issues to the side. That's what he did down here. He had to set his personal issues to the side. Those he had to set to the side. And he had to be he being hoof. No unclean and unclean. Cornelius was clean. That's what was going on. So that's what was happening here. So as Peter said that, it was unlawful. The Jews to keep company, being clothed for it was not, but he tripped on the first time. But was Cornelius an adulterer or a murderer? No. The same with him here. So we got to remember what kind was Cornelius? Cornelius was a Hebrew. He's just from Caesarea. He was a Syrian, but he's from the band called. See, let me show you that. Make sure we all together here. He was called. And the same thing is, we went through this already, but the main thing is, so it's telling you he was called. So since he was a man of Caesarea, called Cornelius. So together, he's sitting there, so that's all it means. Called just mean together name in these other Italian band. That's why he tells you, devout man, and prayed. He did all this thing, but he was part of the Italian band. So together, they just telling you he was a centurion, and Peter had a problem with him. Peter had a serious problem with him. But after Peter had to think on this thing, and he told God what he's not going to do, he's saying what's going on. This is what was going on. Now when we go back over here, it's telling you, so whateversoever is parted of the hoof and is cloven footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, thou shalt eat. So these are the ones you can learn from. This is what he's telling us right up front. These are the ones you can learn from. And we understand that there. But we have to remember what happened even with Moses, because Moses was part of the same clique. I want to show you this. We got to go back and just get some back history, so where we won't sit there and try to get ahead of ourselves thinking we're special, and we're not. In Exodus chapter 10, picking it up at verse 26, I want you to bring back some history to us. And we're going to look at verse 26. And you'll see what Moses did. He says, because Moses was talking to in verse 25. We're gonna hit 25 to where we can hit 26. But it says, Moses said, thou must give us also sacrifices, including burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Spirit of our God. So this is what he's telling us. But watch this. Watch how he tells you this. And he says, our cattle also must go with us. Full thought. And it says, there should not a hoof be left behind. Not a hoof, meaning clean or unclean. I got to take everything. We have to take everything with us. Nothing's going to be left behind. And then watch this. It says, for thereof we must take it to serve the Spirit of our God. We may not with what we must serve the Spirit of God until we come thither. You see that? Now we see he fulfilling this. I'm going to show you what he's fulfilling. I want to show you something. And we're going to go over here. We're going to go to Exodus over here. But I want to put these side by side where you can see them. We're going to look at this. Exodus chapter 12. picking it up at verse 38, just to make sure we understand what is happening. Verse 38 tells us this. And get down to it. Right there, and we're right here. And it tells us. It says, a mixed multitude went up also with them, the flocks, including the herd, and even very much cattle. So this mixed multitude. What is the mixed multitude? The hoof, clean and unclean. Clean and unclean. And you see, even the unclean fell a lusting. The unclean fell a lusting. Actually, Brother David, actually show it to you. Actually, might well show it to you. Speaking of it, might well show it to you. We'll see this in Numbers chapter 11, picking it up at verse 4. And you see this mixed multitude, and you see some that went a lusting. It says, in the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again, including said, who shall give us flesh to eat? Bingo. Whosoever is parted of the hoof, clean and unclean, cloven-footed, can divide these desires. This is what he's getting into. This is why it's so important to make sure we're not looking at stuff on carnal ways. And this is, I promise you, you got so many people going to look at this in a carnal way. This been taught. Ever since, I ain't never seen anybody teach it no other way. No other way. But the way that they just teach you just on what you see here. And he tells us this in verse 4. It says, nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or them that divided the hoof, comparing the camel. Wow. Comparing the camel. The camel. Now we know something about the camel. Let's get some information, and then we can deal with the camel, because the camel is telling us spiritually something, and that's why he's using the camel as a similitude. We want to find this out. It says, because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof, he is unclean to you. Did you catch what he said? He cheweth the cud, meaning, since he chewed the cud, he can consider infinite visions and dreams and matters. That's what he's doing. That's what the camel was able to do. The camel. He can consider those things. And it said, but divided not the hoof. So he missed it. He didn't bring up two of them, but he divided not the hoof. So he's not divided the hoof. He clean or unclean. He can't divide it. He can't divide it. So since he's not divided, then mean he can't be cloven footed. He can't divide the desires from men and from God. It's interesting, isn't it? The camel. It's right here. And we want to know what a camel means. So we want to know what a camel means. And the reason why it's important to understand what these camels and what these names mean, we got to know the functioning in the methodologies on why he's using it. Because a camel just mean a beast of borders. It's just the beast of borders. It does this. It's kind of crazy, but it carries its own water supply. Think about that. It carries its own water supply, and it can carry it up to 7 days. Think about that. Think about that. They chew the cud and consider the dreams and visions and matter, but they're unable to divide the clean and unclean. Why is that? Maybe because they're walking around with their own water. Have you ever thought about that? The camel. The camel does these things. That's why many times you see them die of themselves. That's why that happens. In men, it's telling you can't learn from these type of people. That is the camel. Can't learn from them. Because they're going to die within themselves. They're carrying their own water. The beast of burdens. So what they're going to do, they're going to give you personal interpretations. They're going to give you all this kind of crazy stuff. That's what's going to happen. They're unclean. And they are the beast of burdens. So that's what you want to remember. He's the beast of burdens. And we get down more and we're going to see something. 5. The coney. Because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof. He is unclean. So now the coney, he's a crack up. And we want to know what he is. But the coney, what a coney means spiritually. A coney means false refuge. That's what a coney means. False refuge. Why? Because he's being a seeker of false security and refuge. Actually, to show you better yet. We're going to go somewhere. Let's go to Psalms and we're going to look at Psalms 104. We're going to look at 104. Get a little bit of history on the coney. 104, but we're going to pick it up at verse 18. And it says the high hills are a refuge for the wild goat. You see, that's a full thought. The reason why I'm laughing because it's a cracker. It's for a wild goat, including rocks for the coonies. Did you catch it? Leave it alone. Most people gonna miss what it's saying. It's not, let me just leave it alone. Okay, but that's the same thing. But it's telling you, okay, it's refuge for the goat, for the wild goat, including rocks for the coney. Okay, I'll leave it alone. Let me go on over here to Matthew, and I'm gonna show you a little bit more. Let's look at Matthew. In Matthew 24, and picking it up at verse 23, says this. Pretty interesting. It's actually tying you to the coney. It's tying you to the rabbit, really. It says, if any man should say unto you, lo, here's Christ, that false rock, that rock we talking about over here, or there, that's why it's plural, believe it not. How in the world a rock gonna protect the dang coney? All the eagle got to do is come. Okay, let me just leave it alone, because I know some people not gonna get it. And no rock ain't protecting no coney. So same thing as people telling you to go here and come there. He's not there. So hopefully we got that. Because that was a simple one, and we should have got that. But we got to remember that's seeking what they can do on the thing. Because we got to remember what he's talking about. The coney, because he cheweth the cud, he can consider the visions and the dreams and the matters. He can do that. But divided not the hoof. His hoof ain't divided. He can't discern from clean and unclean. He can't discern, can I hide up under this rock and I think I can hide behind this rock and that he can't get me. Okay, go behind that rock. You getting ready to be dinner. You getting ready to be dinner for something. This coney, right up front. And then we're going to move down. We're going to move down and we're going to go down to a couple of other ones. And it says the hair. I'm talking about if the Most High ain't hitting us with some rocks, I don't know what he ain't hitting us with. Because the hair, spiritually is telling you, and most people know, they say they having sex like a rabbit. I'm just going to leave it at that. They just say sex like a rabbit. Why? Because the hair is nothing no more than a whore. A harlot. So that's why he's saying the hair. And these are the ones who seek in high places. And they do this. And this is why it's telling you, the hair. Because he cheweth the cud, but divided not the hoof, and he's unclean. And I'm going to show you, we're going to get into a little bit of it, just to show you a little bit of what's going on here. Is why he's calling us more so like the hair. And we'll see this, that'll be found in Ezekiel chapter 16. In verse 24, you'll see it here. In there. It says, thou hast built unto thee an eminent place, and made thee a high place on every street. The hair. And thou hast built thy high place on every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred. So the laws of God is abhorred, is hated, and thou open thy feet to every one thy desire, to every one that passeth by, including multiply thy whoredom as the hair. No different than the hair. This is us. And we're not even catching this. We getting hit with rocks and we don't even know it. And your favorite one, let's look at verse 7. And the swine. And the swine, the old swine. Why we want to figure out what's going on with this swine here, because it's really important. The swine, and I want you to write that down, swine just means contemptible. He's contemptible. The swine. And this is the biggest problem he got with swines. Why he has the problem he has. Let's look at some of this. I want to show you in Malachi. We're going to look at Malachi chapter 1. We're going to pick it up at verse 6. And I want to show you some comparisons on what he's doing and why we are being like swine. It says, a son honoreth his father, including a servant his master. If then I, who Christ is saying, if I be a father, where is my honor? So he's saying, hey, if I be a creator, where's my honor? He says, including if I be a master, if I be a teacher, where's my desire? Saith the Spirit of God of hosts unto you, O priests, that despise my way. And ye say, wherein have we despised your way? I'm talking about, we just seen earlier, we teach in doctrines and commandments of men, not the ways of God. We doing exegesis. Remember that? See, most of us forget that. We using exegesis and hermeneutics. And we should be using precepts and line upon line and here a little and there a little to where God is speak, but we want to go to hermeneutics and exegesis. They say we're going to exegete the scriptures. It's craziness. But he says, you despise my way. And you'll see right here, we being swines. Being straight swine. It says, ye offer polluted bread upon my altar, and ye say, wherein have we polluted thee? In that ye say, the table of the Spirit of God is contemptible. It's contemptible. It's provoking. It's all he's saying. It's provoking that you're doing this. And we'll constantly, we'll sit there and don't even think he's doing anything. And this is the problem. This is the problem. It says the swine, though he divided of the hoof, he divided the hoof, clean and unclean things. Watch what he's saying. And be cloven footed. He also can divide the desires of men and the desires of God. I'm only pausing for a minute, because I want you to think about that. The pig can he can discern between what's for God and what's for man. what is clean and what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing. The pig, the swine, he can do this. But the thing is, and he can see what's for God and what's for man. It says, yet that's a full thought. Yet he chose not to cut. But he don't chew the cud. He don't consider the infinite visions, the dreams, and the matters. I'm telling you, the pig. This is what we do. This is what we do. And we don't have no problem with that. That's the problem we have. And actually, I'm gonna tell you what. Let me think about it. Let me take you somewhere. Let's deal with this thing a little bit more. We need to deal with this pig and what we doing. We being nothing more than swine. I want to deal with that a little bit more. Actually, let me go down. We want to hit Hosea. We want Hosea chapter 7. And we want to pick it up at verse 2. I want to show you exactly what and just making sure it's in our face. It says, and they consider not in their hearts that I remember all their wickedness. I want you to think about that. God shows it to us, and we don't think God remember it. We think God got dyslexia or something. Something's wrong with him. He says, and they consider not exactly chewed the cud. Let me show it to you. I'm telling you, he hitting us and we don't even know we being hit. He don't chew the cud. He don't do this. He don't consider infinite visions and dreams and matters. He don't do that. The pig don't do that. He don't do that at all. At all. Don't do it at all. Just think about that. Not a bit. So I'm telling you, we can't get out of our own way. So since we can't, and it's saying their wickedness now, their own doings have beset them about, they are before my face. Think about that. So I'm going to tell you what we do. I'm going to tell you what we good at doing. This is what we good at doing. Just to prove a point. Just to prove a point. Just to prove a point. And this is why I'm saying, swine. And you think, don't even get us on swine. Don't even get us on swine to where we can just go crazy. But let's go to Isaiah chapter 22. And the reason why I want to show you what we do. This is what we do. What we do. And personally, I like to even for some people to even comment and say, I done this. I want people to even comment and say, yeah, I done this. Be honest with yourself. Watch this. Watch this. It says, and remember joy and gladness, slaying oxen and killing sheep and eating flesh and drinking wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we should die. Whoever dies with the most toys wins. Tell me we ain't said that. I done heard that time and time and time again. They even have shirts. I done seen it on the back of vehicles. I done seen this on the back of all kind of things. I done said that. I've said that. Hey, today I'm going to be happy, tomorrow we die. Came out of my mouth as a kid. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Swine. We being swine. We don't consider anything. We don't consider, I'm telling you, we can't get out our own way on this one. We can't get out our own way. Why you think this swine is so dangerous? He's cloven-footed, but he don't chew the cud. He don't consider. Think about this. Think about this. We don't consider. Let me show you something. I just want to show it to you because it's coming here. I just want to show it to you. We're gonna go to Revelations chapter 8, in verse 7. I just want to go. Just go there, and we're gonna see something. And we're gonna see something right here. Actually, I don't want to highlight all that. I just want to highlight that. It says the first messenger sounded. The first one sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. And the third part of the people, these trees, were burnt up. The third part burnt up. This is a prophecy. If we ain't we can't chew the cud. We can't chew the cud. We cloven-footed, divided the hoof. We can't chew the cud. We trying to learn how to chew the cud. We are trying to learn how to do that. Some of us gonna get burned up. All the grass go. All grass going. That's dead. That's done. Ain't gonna be a person left. Surely the people is grass. Ain't not one gonna be left. No grass gonna be left. But guess what? Third part of the tree is going too. The third part of the tree is going too. Why? We can't consider the visions. We don't understand the parables. We don't understand the riddles. We don't understand the dark sayings. I don't know what to say. That's why this bad boy right here, you see him all. People sitting there like, oh man, I gotta have my chitlins. I gotta have my ribs. I gotta have my ham hocks. I have to have my bacon. Oh yeah, people tell you, oh I have to have this. I have to have that. Well, swine. Why? We cloven-footed. We divided of the hoof. Oh, we got those. Think about it. I want you to think about this. And the reason why I'm harping on this because this is one of our main problem. This is one of our main problem. And when you see in Romans chapter 9, verse 6, he makes this clear. It says, not as though the word of God has taken none effect. For they can't chew on the cud. Who should be chewing the cud? You just look at it that way. They should be chewing the, it says, for they should be chewing the cud who are part of the cud, but we ain't. But it said, for they are not all Israel, which are Israel. We not divided of the hoof. And we divided the hoof, but we ain't chewing the cud. It says, for they which are the children of the flesh. These are not the children of God. We don't consider nothing. We ain't considering nothing. Hey, pass the rib, I die tomorrow. Pass it, I die tomorrow. Nastiest thing I heard of, and I just heard about it in my early 50s, when people were telling me they eat pig snout. I'm sitting there with that, wow, you eat pig snout? Yeah. Man, you don't know what you mean. Pig snout. Dude, y'all be, it's the first thing I'm thinking about snot is all up in the dang pig. That's how I think of it. I'm sitting there like, dang. But I never ate them. Never ate them chitlins. I ain't got time for it. But that's the swine. That is swine. We divided of the hoof. We cloven-footed. but we don't consider anything. We don't consider nothing. So just this, and then I get off my little soapbox. But but before I get off this soapbox, I do just want to make sure we understand some things, and we understand what's going on over there right now. I want to make sure we understand some things. So in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 3, he says this. An ox knoweth the owner. Ox knows owner. And an ass his master crib. But Israel can't chew the cud. We can't chew the cud. My people don't even consider chewing the cud. We don't even consider chewing the cud. So, we see it. We can't say anything. We see it. We divided of the hoof. We can divide clean and unclean. Oh, but I gotta have my chitlin. Oh, we can do that. We're cloven footed. We know what the desires of God is. No, but I'm covered under the blood of Jesus. And we can't consider the infinite visions and dreams and matters. Wow. That's us in a nutshell. Sound like Israel to me. That sound like Israel to me. That sounds like Israel to me. And I told you, I promise I'm gonna we'll get off this soapbox, and we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. But I just want you to make sure we understood what was going on here with this swine here. That's why that swine is used so much in Scripture. But we'll see something here in verse 8. It says, of their flesh ye shall not learn, including their carcass ye shall not touch. They are unclean to you. These are unclean to you. We are not to be dealing with this at all. Touch not, handle, again. No, we don't need to be dealing with this whatsoever. So now we know why. Now we done learn why. But let's go down a little bit more. 1 second. We'll go down and look at it a little bit more and get a better understanding. And let's look at 9. Let's look at 9, and might as well go and see what's going on with 9. And it says, these shall ye eat of all the waters. Wait a minute, now he going on the water. Now we getting ready to step on some people's toes. Now we getting ready to bother some people clearly. Because this is his similitude that he wants his harpers to speak on. And it says this. It says, whatsoever have fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, including in the rivers, them shall ye learn. You learn them. So we need to know what these things mean. We need to know what these mean. Fins, scales, seas and waters, we do all the time, so people should know what this is. So let's go back over here. Let's go back over here. We're getting ready to get in trouble again. We already in trouble. Might as well just stay in trouble. We just stay together. Just stay in trouble. We in trouble? Okay, might as well just stay in trouble. So let me take another one here. And we're gonna look at fins. We need to know spiritually what that means. We need to know what that means. And it has another one besides this one I'm putting up. It has another one besides this. But this is good enough to where you know what this is actually talking about. Those are fins. But we need to know what scales mean. We need to know what scales mean. So let's see what scales. Breastplate. Now, this gives you the capability of doing this. That gives you that ability. Scales is a breastplate to where you can weigh matters, weights and measures of the waters. That's what that does. So let's go back over to the scriptures and finish out what we're doing. Let's finish out what we're doing. We just want to make sure we're getting all this together. So now we know this. So now he's telling us, he's saying, so these things, so we know fins is they upright, they make good choices, and they the best. And scales is your breastplate, which you can use for weights and matters. In the waters, in the seas, you mean among the men of all the people, among the river, among your own nations, is what it's talking about. Now watch what happens there. In verse 10, it gets down in there. It says, and all that have no fins and scales, in the seas and in the rivers, even among your own people, and all that move about the waters, and all living things which is in the waters, ye shall be an abomination to you. These things are abomination to you now. Now we seeing more of what's going on. Now we seeing what's going on. And this is how you always to see it. We looking behind the scene. We it's like we going to Universal Studios and we looking behind the scenes, seeing how everything is being done. Kind of like we just taking a tour on God's word. We looking behind the scene. And we seeing now that the fins is talking about, so if it don't have fins, they're not upright. They're not the choice. Now we get it. They're not the choice. They're not the best thing happening. And then it said don't have no scales. They don't have no breastplate to make good judgment, to weigh out matters, weights and measures. Their knowledge are abominations unto you. Now we get it. Now we get this. But let's go. Let's keep on. Let's keep cruising. We're gonna keep on cruising here. And it tells us this. It says, they shall be even an abomination to you. Ye shall not eat, not learn of their flesh. Don't learn what they doing. Don't learn this stuff. It says, but ye shall have their carcass in abomination. So when you see it, that should be an abomination to you. Clear. Same they putting in there. That's most hated. The most hated of God. They telling you exactly what it is right there in the chat. It's most hated. And this is God telling you this. Watch this. And you can see how he's harping on this. You can see how he's harping on it. It says, whatsoever have no fins. You see, he's going back to it again. Whatsoever have no fins nor scales in the waters. He's going right. He just left it and he went back to it again. They should be an abomination unto you. So we need to make this clear. So how can me just being just like I said, he's my client. I'm his servant. So we just want to make things clear. And I'm gonna give you some details to where we can make this clear. So if you're still eating shrimp, and you done eating shrimp, and you doing shrimp, and you got shrimp this and shrimp that, and shrimp this and shrimp that, that's unclean. It has a tail. It don't have no fins, no scales. He's unclean. He is actually an abomination to God. Meaning this, so if you eating shrimp, and you think sitting there telling, I'm a child of God, God don't even see you. Abomination is in you. He don't look at abomination. He look at you as an enemy. He is going to kill you. Let's look at a crab. Crab, people sitting there, well, crab is good. No. Crab got a shell. He don't have a fin. He don't have no scales. He's unclean. Everybody sitting there, well, I can eat crab, God will forgive me. Okay, believe that. You just developed your own commandment of men. Meaning this. Let me go back here. I just want to make sure, because I want to show you our ignorance. See, because same thing is, well, what I want to do, I'm going to go here. We just going to hold it here. We just going to hold it here for a minute. Because we're saying we're the animals. We got hoofs and divided and all this stuff. This is us. We just going to hold to that. And now you got a crab. People going to say, well, I'm going to eat crab. Okay. Your hoof is divided. So you can discern between clean and unclean. You already know it's unclean to you. And you're clothing for it. And guess what? You know what God desires and what man desires. You desiring the crab. But the part that you slip on, you doing this. You don't consider the infinite visions and dreams that matters. You got again. I'm going to eat that. Okay. You ain't considering what's going on. You going to die. Let's go to the lobster. People, I got to have my lobster. People run over the Red Lobster, making sure I got to have me some lobsters and some crabs and some of these things. And I want to have those things. I want that crab is just, that lobster is just unreal. I like to dip him in that butter and, oh man, I just be salivating. Yeah. Guess what? You know what's clean and unclean. Well, God to forgive me. Okay. You got this hoof rolling with you. And you can divide this out. Well, God just be clean I be unclean for 24 hours. Okay. You know what's right and know what's not right. But guess what? You don't consider eating that crab can get your butt put in hell. You don't know eating that shrimp gonna get your butt put in hell. You don't know putting that lobster gonna get your butt put in hell. Why? You can care less about his desires. You fulfilling yours, not his. Well, he'll be okay. I'm just gonna do this in 24 hours. I'll be back good. Cool. Who desire you fulfilling? Yours or his? I'm fulfilling mine. Yeah, okay. Die. Die and see what's gonna happen. Clams. One of the worst things you should be eating. Clams. Clams clean all the poop. They the filters. They clean all the poop in the ocean. And people, I want half shell. Sucking up. It's easier for you. Tell you what. All y'all that eat those clams. Everybody eating clams. Tell you, here's a secret. All you do, put nothing at the bottom of your fish tank. And when the fish poop, get that and you eat that. Because that's what you're eating. You eating fish poop. In a nutshell, that's what you're eating. Don't cook it. Because you're getting oysters half shell. So the same thing is, one, your hoof is divided. You know it's unclean. You clothing for it. You know it's not the desires of God. But you ain't chewing the cud. You see how you keep getting set up? Actually, I need to change this color. I want to make sure you see this one. Because this the one. See, this is where our problem is. That's where our problem is. On this one in the red. Meaning we can go in and up busting hell wide open. Some of y'all gonna sit there, some eat shark. Oh, I gotta have that shark. Oh, I would like that shark meat. Okay. Bingo. So I'm sitting there, well, I got to have my catfish. Cool. Don't have a scale the first. Straight skin. Straight skin. You know it's unclean. You know God don't desire you to have it, but you ain't considering it. Got you again. You ain't considering anything. You don't chew no cud. You don't think on it. So when you stand, the easiest thing to do is, if you're standing before God, just tell God, excuse God, just show me where I'm going. Just show me where I'm going, cause I already know I'm not coming here. I already know I'm not coming there. You might as well just do that. That's the easiest thing for you to do. Cause we don't consider nothing. Nothing. This is our problem. And we go through it. But it gets better. It gets better. He now he done took care of everything in the land. He done took care of everything in the waters. He got somewhere else he wanna go. He got somewhere else he wanna go. More problems. More problems. Let's look at this and let's go over here to verse 13. Let's go down to verse 13. This ain't good. This is not good whatsoever. When I say this ain't good whatsoever, this ain't good whatsoever. But we have to go through it. Because everybody keep thinking that's what he's talking about eating, but he's talking about what you're not to learn from. And he tells us this in verse 13. It says, "These are they which ye shall have in abomination." So now he's getting on them first. This is what you're going to have in an abomination among the fowls. These things that fly in the air. Fowls, just make sure we understand what this mean angels and messengers. Angels and messengers. That's them. Those are fowls that you can see in the air. Either he's going to be a messenger of Jehovah or you're going to be a messenger of Satan. And this is why. Let's look at it. Let's see why. Because they can come. Because remember, he wanted to do everything that Christ is doing. He's going to do everything that Christ does. But we're going to find some of this in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Picking it up at verse 7. At verse 7. And this tells you that. It says, "Including lest I be exalted above measure." And this is Paul speaking. Because some of us get high-minded. We be exalted above measure. Though in abundance of revelations. Considering these visions and matters. Because some people will get puffed up with this. They'll sit there and see, now all of a sudden they think they poop, they don't stink. It says, "There was given me a thorn in the flesh." This was given to him. "The messenger of Satan buffeted me, lest I should be exalted above measure." So Paul knew he'd get puffed up. So he had that. And we'll see some of these silhouette pictures when we look at this in 2 Corinthians chapter 11. But we're going to look at verse 14. Because just like I said, he has messengers also. And it tells you the same thing here. Actually, not there. Sorry, I got the wrong one. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. Not 15, just 14. And it says, "And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light." He's transformed into an angel of light. So you can learn from him. This is what he does. He's good at doing this. And he's going to be in those buildings. And this is how he gets you. The main thing we got to remember is this. in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2. And you will learn this, wherein in times past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince and the powers of the air, these fowls, the spirit that knoweth worketh the children of disobedience. Boom. Boom. These are the fowls that he's talking about. Don't learn from them. Now, you see, it says, these are they which have an abomination among the fowls. Why? Because they transform themselves. Either through making them look like they're really strong in power, or they doing it based on how people see them and perceiving them outwardly. That's how they get you. They'll figure they're stronger in numbers. They show you large numbers of them in groups. And people will sit there and like, oh man, these boys are strong. This is the way I'm rolling. No, that's not what he's telling you. That's not what he wants you to do. Excuse me. So he want to just show you who these are and what they are about. But because he's telling you, these are abominations to you. And he says, they shall not be eaten. You don't supposed to learn from them. They're abominations. Excuse me. In the first one, the eagle. The eagle. Wow. The eagle. Out of all that we come up with first the eagle. So what's going on with this eagle? We want to know what the eagle means. We want to know what the eagle is in Scripture. We want to know what he means and what he is. And the same thing is, when you write this down, and same thing, when you get spiritual meanings, you can take that from the beginning of the book to the back of the book. It's the same, because you're seeing spiritually what he's talking about. And then you can see where to apply it and where not to apply it. You see a bird or just what he's talking about, man, you can see this. It's plain and simple when you really understand Scripture. And the eagle actually means possessor. It means possessor. That's why the eagle is there. And you can see why you see, where he talks about the eagle in great detail in many places. And same thing, I'm doing one on that second eagle. But he's the possessor. He is a possessor. That's what an eagle is. He's an extremely strong animal. Yeah, I don't even call him like a bird, because he's a powerful thing. And when you see this in Psalms chapter 66, and we're going to see something there in 66 in verse 11. And this is what goes on. Thou broughtest us into the net. That's his. And layest affliction upon our loins. That's what he's capable of doing. That's what the eagle is capable of doing. The reason I say that is, they can bring you into their net. They can get you in their building. Once they got you there, once they have you in that building, they have you to themselves. Now they can lay any type of affliction, they can bind any type of burden on you. Because they became your owners. The owners of you. In fact, I'll show you something about them. Christ spoke about them in Matthew. He spoke about them in Matthew 23. And we'll see this in Matthew 23, verse 4. And he talked about them. And these are scribes and Pharisees. They sit in Moses' seat. These are scribes and Pharisees. They their own teachers. But watch it. It says, for they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, for you to carry. And it says, and lay them on men's shoulders. But they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. They're not going to do anything. They'll tell you, well, the church needs this. The church needs that. We need to get together to do this. We had a man who said he needed a plane, costed $65 million. They even made a short film of it. He ended up removing it. And he wasn't gonna put out a dime of his money. No, he was putting that burden on his people. The same as these men do in these buildings. They'll put that burden on these people. This is what they're good at doing. And they're not going to feel anything about that. Nothing about it. And you've fallen into these, and they have a right, and then they're going to feel they can oppress you. And this is why we start running into these problems, because as we falling into these things, then we seeking, and same as we sit there, and many people sit there like, why do we have this problem? Why do we have that problem? We supposed to be the kings and princes of this world. But the ego got us. we went into his room. In fact, actually, I'm gonna tell you what, Uncle Idris actually spoke on this. I want to go to second. Let's go to second Idris and show you something with Uncle Idris, what he did. We're gonna go there in chapter 6, in verse 55. I believe we're gonna pick it up right there. In 6:55 is right there. And look at this. In second Idris, chapter 6, verse 55, it says, all this have I spoken before thee, O Creator, because thou madest the world for our sakes. Tell me, this is what we do. We good at doing this. And the reason why I want to take you this way, I want you to make sure we clearly all understand and we all be on the same page. Because we truly believe this 100%. The problem is this. This is not the first time that's been said. This is said quite a bit. We'll even see this in Acts chapter 1, picking it up at verse 6. This is why I want to take you around this way. So even in verse 6, you see, even they ask, they therefore were come together. They ask him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? So we know that. See, so you can see it's not some fantasy. You see, Uncle Idris telling you, he's sitting there saying, he made us the world for our sakes. They want to know, when are you going to restore the kingdom of Israel? You see what's going on here. But what I said, the problem we have is we sold everything over because we gave our bread to someone else. We gave all our stuff to someone else, and we started eating off of someone else's table. Let me bring it a little bit closer for us. Let me bring this a little bit closer for us to where we can see this. So we can see it all together. We'll find this in Hebrews in chapter 12. We'll find this in Hebrews chapter 12. And the reason why, we're going to look at verse 16. Verse 16, you're going to see something really clear here. And we can't change this. Excuse me. And it says, lest there be any fornicator or profane person comparing Esau. This is what we did. See, we got to get out the picture of where we thinking we don't do anything. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person comparing even Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. So why are we over there asking that question? That's the point. We sold it. In fact, let's go back. Let's go back. How he got us. Let's see how he got us. We got to trip all the way back over here to Genesis. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6. Let's see what our own little spirits did. And it says, and when the woman, our spirit, saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eye, this bread that is being offered, that bread, that knowledge was being offered. It says It was pleasant to thy eyes, to your understanding, and the tree was desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also to her husband, and he did eat. For one morsel, this is what we did. So don't think that it can't happen. You see it happen here in the 3rd chapter of Genesis. And you see Paul talking about it over there in Hebrews. And you see the same people talking about it over here in Acts. So don't think that we cannot, at any time, think that we can sit there and do things and get away with it. Let's go a little bit deeper here. Let's look at Deuteronomy, and we're going to see something. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 15. In 15 is our problem. This is where our problem is. This is where our whole problem is. It says, but Jeshurun waxed fat. That's our problem. See, in kicked, and waxing fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. We cover with our own silly thoughts. Then forsook God which made him, and lightly, we'll mention God, we'll bring him up, but we won't esteem God. We're not going to esteem God. It said, and lightly esteem the rock of salvation. This is what we done. We can't sit there and play the game. We cannot play this game. And you see this here. Same thing in 56. What I was saying. Look at what Uncle Idris is saying. It says, comparing for other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said. You said this, God. God, you said this out your own mouth. Thou hast said, they are nothing. They are nothing. You see how he's trying to sit there and really figure out what's going on. Thou hast said this, God. But we lightly esteem this. I want you to keep that in mind. In fact, you even look at Romans chapter 1. We're going to go down to verse 20. 21. I believe it's 21 we want. I believe it's 21. Yeah, we'll start at verse 20. It says, for the invisible things, in Romans chapter 1, verse 20, and we're going to go right back over there. In the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things which are made, even his Christ's eternal power in Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So we don't have an excuse for this. Lightly esteeming the rock. It says, because they knew God. We knew God. We cloven footed. We hoofed. We got a split hoof. Are we seeing this? We have a split hoof. But it's saying they knew God. They glorified him not as God. Neither were they thankful. Became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish hearts was darkened. We lightly esteemed him. And we see over here, this is even in Romans, but even over here, you see people come from Adam, and he's sitting there saying, God, let me tell you, I just want to tell you what you said, God. I want to use your script. I want to use your voice back on you. You have said these people is nothing. They're like unto spittle, and has likened in the abundance of them that droppeth to fall from a vessel. He's telling him this. It's putting this back on God. Yeah, why are you doing this? Watch what happens. I want to show you what happens. Let's go down to verse 57. Because this is our problem. It says, and now, O Creator, remember these heathens. Look at it. Wait a minute. We want to get tied to heathens. We want to do heathen things. But as soon as things don't start going our way, all of a sudden, we start doing this. We start doing this. It says, which have ever been reputed as nothing. Remember what you said? They're nothing. They're like spit. Actually, I'll show it to you. I'll show you what he's talking about. I'm going to show you what Idris is talking about. Because they was friends. And I'm going to show you what Idris is talking about. Because he had to hear this from Isaiah. Because they was both friends anyway. But Isaiah says this in chapter 40 of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 17. You see him saying this same identical thing. And you'll see this in verse 17. This is where he's getting this from. It says, all nations before him are as nothing. They accounted to him less than nothing, including vanity. This is where Idris is getting this stuff from. This is where it's coming from. And so he knows it's being said. He know God said this. But the problem is what they have a problem with. It says, now, O Creator, remember these heathens, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be rulers over us, including to devour us. So where's the problem? See, this is our problem. We waxing fat. You see it over here. We waxing fat. We lightly esteemed him. We waxing, we think we rolling now. And you see this here. Let's look at this again. Look how we do. But this is classic us. Classic us. It says, but thy people whom thou hast called, thy firstborn, thy only begotten, and thy favorite lover are given into their hands. So again, I'm gonna ask you again, where's the problem? See, this is our problem. And the first thing we want to do, we want to put this on everybody else. We want to put this on everybody. But we is giving everything over to the ego. The ego got it all. He's our possessor. Let me bring this a little bit closer for us. Let's bring this a little bit closer. So we'll see it's our own dang fault. We'll see it's our own dang fault. We'll find this in Isaiah chapter 52 in verse 3. We'll see this is our own dang fault. Because he actually responded to us. He responded to what he's talking about. He responded. It says, for thus said the Spirit of God. You see he's responding. That's the key to precepts. You ask a question, he want to know what's going on. Guess what? He answering it right here. For thus said the Lord. Why you sold us? Why you give us over to the people? You ask God, he answering it right here. We lightly esteemed him. We did all these things. And now we want to sit there. Why we being treated like this? Okay, he going to answer. But thus said the Lord. Ye sold yourselves for naught. Y'all sold yourself for one morsel of meat. You did it. I didn't do anything. You did it. You did it. It's your own dang fault you did it. I'm telling you, we good at doing this. In fact, he said, ye shall be redeemed without money. We might well look at some more of this. We'll go down to Deuteronomy chapter 28, 68. And we thinking we going to get out of this. But I want reparations. Everybody want reparations. All of a sudden, everybody want reparations. He said, you're going to be redeemed without money. You ain't getting nothing. Because ain't nobody put you there but him. It says, and the Spirit of God shall bring you into Egypt again, into bondage again with ships, by the way thereof that I speak unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again. So you ain't gonna see this land, not in our fleshly bodies, we not. Not in these bodies we're not. And it says, and there you should be sold to your enemies. For bond men and bond women, no man should buy you, because you're going to be redeemed without money. And if you got somebody redeeming you with money, giving you reparations, that's letting you know you ain't part of God. You don't have nothing to do with God. That's the clear part. He said, well, I'm going to get my reparation. Then right there, you got redeemed without money. You don't have nothing to do with God. You got people sitting there all day long. Oh, well, we want reparations. We want reparation. We want reparation. You got a lot of people sitting there. You got people educated, highly educated, extremely educated, sitting there saying, yeah, we want reparation. We're going to push for it. They pushing for it. You get redeemed without money. That's one thing. You get redeemed by money, you ain't part of God. You can sit there and say, oh, I'm going to still get in. Keep thinking that. You take that to the grave. When you wake up and wonder what's cooking, don't worry about it. It's you. But the same thing that we got to remember what's going on here. Because we got to remember a couple of things. We got to remember a couple of things that he said. See, that's the eagle. Now we got the offspring. This is another boy. This is another boy. See, we just finished with the eagle. We just kind of touched on the eagle. But now we got this offspring. This offspring is another boy. So, I hate to tell you what it is. But I'm going to tell you what he is. And some people going to be seeing these offspring. That's the pride breaker. That's called a breaker of pride. I just call him the pride breaker. But the proper way you call it is the breaker of pride. So I just put my little slang on it. That's all I was doing. But that's what he is. So the ostrich, he's the pride breaker. So he's the breaker of your pride. And to help us out to understand that, we're going to use Jeremiah to help us out to understand more about this guy. And we'll find it over in Jeremiah chapter 13. Picking it up at verse 9. At verse 9. And we'll see here. You see, thus saith the Lord. You see what he's saying. So we know it's coming from him. He putting this guy on us. This the guy he putting on us. It said, thus saith the Lord, after this manner will I mar the pride of Judah, the great pride of Jerusalem. I'm going to put this offering on you. He going to break your pride. Now, mar, offering there, he going to mar it, he going to destroy it. He can disfigure you. Destroy you, meaning he can kill you. Offering. That's him. And he said he going to do it with Judah, and he going to break the great pride of Jerusalem. That means all Israel. So now do it look like he's still playing. Do it look like he's playing a game with it. Actually, I just want to know what people think. Now we're looking at Leviticus chapter 11. Do you still think he's talking about food? And just put yes or no. Just yes or no while we're talking. Because I can look at the comments later. That's normally what I do most times. Do you still think he's talking about food? Because he ain't bit mo said nothing about no food. He ain't bit no brought up food. The pride breaker. He gonna put that ostrich on you. He gonna put that bad boy on you. And it gets more. It gets more. Watch this. Watch this. It says, this evil people which refuse to hear my word. You see, he's talking about Judah and all Jerusalem. In all Jerusalem. He said these people refuse to hear my words. Watch this. Which walk in the imagination of their hearts. Lightly esteeming the rock. Yeah, God. Yeah, God, what's that, God? I'm going to put a tattoo on you. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Yeah. You see it right here. it says, and it said, so with their imagination in their hearts, and walk after other gods to serve them, including to worship them, shall be even the girdle which is good for nothing. I'm telling you, this bad boy is crazy. This bad boy is crazy. This one right here, this bad boy is nothing. The ostrich, this bad boy is not to be played with. That's what he's about. This ostrich is the one that will hurt you. To bring the matter even closer, you see ostriches. You see them. So the same thing, you can see this with some of this where we see where some of our people even was killed in public. That's ostriches. That's them. Wrong or right, that's what they'll do. He said, you're going to be sold to your enemies, and this is what they're about. Wrong or right, I'm just putting you over there. I'm not telling them to do it. I'm just telling you ahead of time. You go into some enemies, and enemies don't play fair. Show me an enemy that play fair with anyone. You don't see it nowhere, do you? They don't play fair. So they just do what they got to do. And they're going to break your pride. That's why you see, if anybody's seen, what's that one? That's an old movie. It was with Ice Cube and Cuba Gooding Jr. Can't think of the name of the movie, but anyway, they went out and they was out on Crenshaw Boulevard and cruising, but then they got stopped, and not Ice Cube, but Cuban Gooding Jr. with his friend got stopped, and by some officers, and the officers they put a gun to his face, letting you know how much power he don't have. And literally, he could have shot him. And probably back then would have got away with it because there's no cameras. No cameras. Think about that. This could have easily happened. And the same thing with Mr. Floyd, George Floyd, he same thing. If it wouldn't have been filmed, they probably could have got away with that. The same as the gentleman who was jogging. If it wasn't filmed, probably could have got away with that. That ostrich is not, he's not here to play games. And you just seeing the characteristics of an ostrich. He's not here to play games with you at all. If he dislikes you, he dislikes you. And he dislikes you to death. And we over here with some ostriches. And it's not saying ostriches is white people. That's the kid. See, that's what a lot of people go, well, those are white people. No, don't trip. You got black people. Do you know how many Crips kill Bloods and how many Bloods kill Crips? Ostriches. So don't ever try to put it on a color. Put it on the characteristics. See, in Israel, and if we was in our land, you do that to one of the people, they're going to get rid of that. They're going to get rid of that person right there. So if you have a Crip kill the Blood over there, which it wouldn't have been going on anyway, but let's just say for the sake of the matter, just say it was Crips and Bloods, and we over all in Jerusalem, and you seen a Crip kill a Blood, they're gonna get rid of that Crip gotta die. He gotta die. They're gonna get rid of that evil out of Israel. So that's why I say don't sit there and start putting stuff on a people. And you see in the Crip kill a Blood, they're gonna get rid of that Crip gotta die. He gotta die. They're gonna get rid of that evil out of Israel. So that's why I say don't sit there and start putting stuff on a people. And you see in the Crip kill a Blood, they're gonna get rid of that Crip gotta die. He gotta die. They're gonna get rid of that evil out of Israel. So that's why I say don't sit there and start putting stuff on a people. just because you're over here in this land. So we got to remember that. But they would disfigure you, and even they women would disfigure you. But the same thing is, we got to look at this and see what this is going on. And this is why it's saying, and it says, and we'll walk after their God, after another God, and serve them and worship them, even be as this girdle, which is good for nothing. This is going to happen. This is happening right now. This is happening right now. So you got people running around talking about they fear man and fear this and fear that and fear this and fear that. But what do you fear? Tell you what, think about it. Imagine all our wives can stand and be doing something else. And to show you even how shady we are amongst even ourselves. Being an ostrich, meaning this, you can take mostly any other nation, any other race, and you can see where they were coming to their people. And I even know Asians do it because I'm real close to some Asians that I know very well. And what they would do, they would bring, some of these people would come over from another country. Some would come from Vietnam. Some would come from China and have nothing in their pocket. And their people is what's going on. Their people is what's going on. And what we want to know is this. They will sit there and they will tell their own people how to get $1. They will tell their people how to get $1. But the main thing they won't do is this. If we know how to make $1 every day, don't you know we won't tell our own brother, our own sister, how to make that same $1 every day? We want 50 cents of the $1. Or we want a quarter from the $1. We don't want to sit there and tell them how to actually get the $1. Still makes us an offer to break the pride of the power. In fact, to take you more so in it, just to make sure we all here. And we're going to look at this in Leviticus. We're going to go to another part in Leviticus. Not in the same part, but we're going to go in another part of Leviticus. We're going to look at this in 26. In verse 19. We're going to look at this in verse 19. And it says, I will break the pride of your power. Exactly what he's doing. I will break the pride of your power, including I will make your heaven as iron and your earth, I will make it as brass. He's not here playing. He's not here playing with us. But we sitting there walking around like we cool. We sitting around walking like everything is good. And it's not. He is talking about our pride is there. That's why Paul said, hey, he gave me that messenger of Satan to buffet me. At least I exalt myself above anything else. These things happens, and we have to pay attention to what we're doing. We have to pay attention. And then we have this other one. Then we have another one. I'm talking about we have these birds, and these birds is not playing. But you got to remember what fowls are. These are spirits that's within these people. These are spirits that's within them. And now we have the osprey. Oh boy. We only got to the third bird. The third bird. These are spirits that is in the air. Spirits in the air that gonna do us in. The osprey. And this one is unique. The reason why, I want you to write this down. Make sure, and I know they're going to take care of you in the chat, but I just want to make sure you write it down too. These are called sea eagles. Sea eagles. Now you put it spiritually, you know what it's saying. Because they sea eagle. They looking for opportunities everywhere. Sea eagles. Or what I call them personally, I kind of put it there, but then even spiritually, it even telling you about people possessors. People possessors. And what they will do, they selling you. They'll sell you all kinds of things. They'll sell you false hope, false dreams, to end up just possessing you. That's what they seek to do. They want to possess you. They want to control you and see how they can do you in. They're good at doing this. They're good. That's why they call them osprey. They can do you in all day, and you will never know it. And what they're doing is this. As a people possessors is what they do. People possessors. So what they're gonna do? I want to show you something and make sure that we clearly get what's going on here. Let's go down here to Ezekiel and have Ezekiel share some information with us on what the Most High want us to know. We're going to find this in Ezekiel chapter 13, and the piece of text that we want is in 18. The one we want is 18. And let's go down to this one and see what's happening here. So again, we know he's talking. And it's in, and say, thus said the Creator God. Wow. This you can see this is not even going to come out good. This not going to even come out good. He says, because the women that sew pillows, because the women sew pillows to all armholes. That's craziness. It says, including make kerchiefs, these kerchiefs upon the head of every stature to hunt souls. This is craziness. I break it down, but I'm just telling you, this is craziness. It says, will hunt the souls of my people, and will ye save souls alive that come unto you? Will you save them that come unto you? Now, I teach people, but you got a lot of people, we got people who run by all the time. But hey, I just keep moving. But we want to understand what this is saying. Spiritually, get what this is actually speaking of. So spiritually, this is telling you about the pillows. Pillows is comfort. Comfort. That's what we want. So it's saying that so comfort in armholes. And it's talking about in many ways of protection. That's what this is doing. Many ways of protection that is going to do this. That's why I say this is crazy. And it says, in hunting the souls of people to where he can possess you. Meaning these kerchiefs. This here, I just want you to write that down. Make sure it's a veil. V-E-I-L, veil. That's what this is. That's the veil. Not a veil, V-A-I-L, veil, V-E-I-L. That's the one you want. That's what this one is. And the reason why, it's a covering. And it'll cover your entire stature. Upon the head of every stature, it's going to cover your entire body and keep you from seeing what's going on, to separate you from Christ completely. So you're going to be veiled and covered where you can't see him. This is why I say this is crazy. If it can pull you away from Christ and cover you, you're doomed. But it gets better. It gets better. Let's look at 14. And then we have the vulture. The vulture. Well, we already know the vulture. We already know what he's up about, but we just need to know what he actually means. We need to know what he means and how he functions. And the vulture means proverb. Most people don't know that. The vulture means proverbs. He is going to make us, meaning he's going to make us a proverb among all people. We're being set to where he flies over and he, actually, I'm going to tell you, it's better I do this. To help explain him. The vulture. You know, we're going to see this in Deuteronomy chapter 28. And we're going to pick it up at verse 37. This is the vulture. He's good at doing this. And you see, and they don't have no shame in their game. No shame in their game. This is why he flies over. It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whether the Spirit of God shall lead thee. And vultures are going to be there. They are going to be there. This is the point that he's making. That's the focus of this. And as we see that, we'll see this here. We'll see in 1 Kings. And we'll see something there. 1 Kings chapter 9. And we're going to pick this up at verse 6. The reason why I want to show you what's going on there. And you see this here. It says, but if ye should turn from following me, ye and your children, including, will not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them. He's telling you what he's getting ready to do. He's telling you what he's going to do. Because we sat there, we made a covenant with him, but we choosing not to keep it. Verse 7. Then I will cut off Israel out of the land. He ain't saying he's going to divorce you. He's going to put you out of the land. I'm going to cut you out of the land which I have given them, including the house which I have hallowed for my way. Will I cast you out of my sight, including Israel, shall be a proverb, including a byword. Exactly what Moses is saying. Among all people. Telling us this is what he's going to do. And the vulture is going to help him do it. And as they out there, because they do it in the public, they don't care. It says, and at the house which on every way that pass by shall be astonished. I don't care where you go in the world. We always out. We're an astonishment to the world. And shall hiss and shall say, why have the Spirit of God done this unto this land and unto this house? Yeah. Yeah. See, these are the things that we have to really pay attention to. And even more so. See, the vulture don't care. The vulture don't care. The vulture will do whatever he can do to demean us in the best way possible that they see fit. That they see fit. Not what you see fit, what they see fit. In Psalms chapter 37, picking it up at actually at verse 3 for this vulture, he says, in there they carried us captive, required of us a song. And they that waste us required us myrrh, saying, sing one of the songs of Zion. Sing one of these songs of Zion. And this is what we got to really pay attention to. This is what we got to really see. And the main part of this is what we want to pay attention to is this here. When we look at this and we go here, you go to Psalms 190, go to Psalms 95. You pick it up Psalms 95, and you'll see here, 95 verse 1. It says, "Let us sing unto the Spirit of God. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation." Making a joyful noise, but you're in the land of your enemies. Kind of getting the point. You're going to make this noise, but you're in the land of your enemies. But we got a problem. We have a problem. We have one. We're going to, since we kind of got almost out of time, so I'm going to go to one. I want to make sure we check out one. I want to make sure we check out one. I catch the kike on another one, but we're going to catch that. I want you to see this full thought one right there. The raven. I want you to pay attention to this one, since we kind of biting for time and we kind of running through. Because it's two other ones I really want to make sure you really get. Because this raven is one. And I want you to write down what this raven is. The raven actually means to be black. The raven. That's literally what he actually means. The raven means to be black. And as a whole, we are ravens. And the reason why this is saying this, I want you to look at something. We're going to see something which we can't get around it. We literally can't get around it. We're going to go over here to Genesis chapter 8. We're going to pick up something. And we're going to see what happened. We can't get around this. And this is a whole nother ball game. It says, "It came to pass at the end of 40 days, Noah just means comforter. The comforter opened the window of the ark," which is the heart of God, which he had made. I want you to think about that. Let me show you something. Hopefully we'll get it. We're going to look at Genesis 7:12, and then we're going to go back over. 7:12 we're going to go back over. Now, it says, "And rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights." We get that. So what we know then, we know God taught for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, this window here, is telling you about the entrance. So all it means is entrance or the matrix. That's the gate. That's the window. So we want to pay attention to that also. But he opened up this window. But God had taught upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, once this happened, for 40 days and 40 nights, this and you can already see where we have a problem at. Why this is such a big issue with God. Because in verse 7, in Genesis 8:7, you see what happened. He sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro till the waters were dried up from off the earth. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm telling you, we can't get out our own way. So what it's saying here, as we need to really understand what's going on. Let's go. Let's pull some more. Let's pull some more to where we can get it. Let's go down to verse 17, just so we can get it. spiritually talking, on what it's doing. The flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and buried up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. Clear as day. Clear as day. Now, what do we do? So as knowledge increased and the ark of God was lifted up, the heart of God was lifted up, and it prevailed in the earth. It was prevailing in the earth. However, Noah sent a dang raven. And the raven being black, walking around like he don't have no knowledge, fulfilling Isaiah 1:3 to the letter. Actually, you see this. You see he didn't come back, didn't he? Why? Well, let's look at it. Let's look at it. We're gonna go back and look at it. As you see right here, it says, "An ox know of his owner, ask his master's crib, but Israel don't know. My people don't consider it." No, can't even bring your butt back. Couldn't even come back. Couldn't come back to the covenant. Can't even make no sense. We can't even get back to the covenant. All behind, we caught up in our own little world. We are in our own world. And what he's telling, this is why he's catching us up constantly. We can't get around it, because guess what? We over there thinking they was talking about food. Oh, well, we can't eat this. Oh, you can't eat. Oh, what's on the list what I can eat? Oh, I don't know. Let me see. It says in Isaiah 65, verse 2, it says, "I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people, which walketh not in the way that was good, after their own thoughts." Key to what we do. Key to what we do. Telling you, we can't get out our own way on this. We cannot get out our own way on this. And I'm gonna have to actually end up stopping here. I gotta let me do this. I didn't know it was gonna run this long, and then I had to prepare for another teaching this afternoon. So what we're gonna do? I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna end up stopping there. But just to make sure people can get the understanding, basically what was going on, or what was happening. But I need to stop there because it's running a little bit longer than what I expected to get to what we need. But the main thing is, what we want to always remember is this, that we got to pay attention to what he's saying. We have to make sure we know the covenant of God, not what people say he's saying on the surface. We have to go down into the earth. That's just like you can't put a seed on top of the ground and expect it to grow and flourish. It had to go down into the ground and get the nutrients and everything that it needs to grow. So hopefully you guys got some understanding here on this one here. I didn't expect it to run that long. And the same thing is this evening, same place at 3 o'clock. I will be doing the teaching on the sealed portion, expose the final testament of Jesus Christ. That I will be doing. So with that, hopefully we can get together. You'll see this showing at 3 o'clock. You join back over, and this here you will learn quite a bit over on this one, because there's going to be a lot of things exposed on this to help us out to know what he's talking about and what is required of us. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a break for now and get prepared for this afternoon. So with that, I say to each and every person, until next time, until later on this evening, I say to you guys, shalom.